This is Kathy Biehl of EmpowermentUnlimited.net with Astro Insight for the week of May 1st, 2017. Mercury goes direct on the 3rd and thousands cheer, but don't get too excited too quickly. The Winged Messenger is our host for the entire month of May, and we will be spending a lot of time experiencing and gradually understanding and acting on all of the various gifts he has been delivering to us. And yes, you may scoff at the concept of a gift coming from a Mercury retrograde, but think about what you have had to deal with and clean up in your life since April 9, which is when he stationed retrograde. Mercury is the ruler of gadgets, and getting around, our information flow, how we communicate, what we use to communicate, the actual words that come out of our mouth or into our brains, and also our vehicles, how we get around in our neighborhoods, our relationship to our cars, roads, buses, short-term commutes, and also vehicles of information, which can be your computer, your phone, various types of technology, all the different gadgets we now use. What have you had to clean up? What have you found out doesn't work? What have you gone back, restructured, pulled out of nowhere, or out of the recesses of distant time and memory? I have witnessed and experienced an excessive amount of breakdowns and complications and frustrations during this time. It's been as if you pull a string and each string is then tangled with 5 or 6 other strings, all of which are tangled with 5 or 6 other strings. A couple of important points about all this. First, as Mercury makes its turnaround, he is sitting in company with Uranus, the ruler of our higher mind. He's also called the higher octave of Mercury. You can think of him as a lightning rod for pulling inspiration down for new ideas. He is the bringer of alternative viewpoints, hitting you upside the head so you see things differently, blowing up previous ways of thinking, delivering information that very suddenly shatters the way you're approaching something, or very suddenly just changes your perspective. Uranus throws lightning bolts. He lobs Molotov cocktails, particularly in his current position in Aries, which he's been in for multiple years now. The upshot is we're basically existing in a lightning field with lightning bolts hitting us constantly. It's going to be erratic, volatile, a bit crazy for a while, but 2 important aspects of this so that you don't just start hyperventilating, turn your device off, and fall into a fetal position. The first is everything that unlocks now, all of the awakenings. Think of it as awakening, actually. All of the awakenings and the shatterings and the dropping your grip on certain ways of looking at things or doing things, all the shifts in technology, upgrades, replacements that need to be made, those go with us all month long on Mercury's very interesting journey. And as he goes back into Taurus, he's currently at the end of Aries, as he shifts back into Taurus at the middle of the month, on the 15th, our approach to things will start settling down, become more concrete, become more something that we can grasp, tangible, practical. By the end of the month, Mercury will make a link with Pluto that will lead to us streamlining, getting really clear on something, cutting away a lot of the stuff that we don't need anymore, getting very deep and serious and focusing on something extraordinarily important, focusing our minds, our information flow onto something intense and powerful. And the second thing is, this week, as Mercury is still kind of hanging out at the very end of Aries and floating in the company of Uranus, first off, he's going to meet Uranus again next week, so that's why we're in this extended lightning field. But more importantly, he's traveling across degrees that are going to be very active as the year goes on. just past mid-month when Uranus and Saturn make their second big trine, and again in August when there's eclipse action that's going to just, well, let's say activate stuff in a big way. And then again in November when Saturn and Uranus make their final of 3 trines. Saturn and Uranus trining brings the paradoxical simultaneous influence of pulling things into physical form that have been gestating, energy, projects, creativity coming into form, and also blowing up and shattering the structures of things that don't fit anymore. And how this particular part of Mercury's journey fits into it is that we're gathering information that's going to be useful later. It will be useful later in May, it will be useful in August, it will be useful in November, and probably many, many other times in between. I could parse this down into all kinds of steps, but just know, no matter what happens now, if you are irritated by something that happens, there is a silver lining to it. It is clearing out your thinking, breaking your grip on something, liberating you in some way that is going to end up being extremely important as the year goes on. The potential this week to see how you are blessed, how this process actually does benefit you, how it fits into a higher purpose, or maybe even using this process to pull artistic inspiration down or spiritual insight down that does exist, because the very day that Mercury stations direct, we have the only major aspect of the week that involves outer planets, and that is a sextile, an opportunity aspect between the Sun and Neptune. So here's my suggestion. I am accused by at least one person that I know of living in a fairy tale, and I invite you to join me in that as the week goes on. In other words, why not ask for magic, ask to be shown what the blessing is in whatever happens to you, ask to be a vehicle for magic and miracles, ask for guidance, ask for insight, ask to be led. Seriously, what do you have to lose? You have a lot to gain. Let me know how that goes for you. The homing thought of the week, show me another way to look at this. The song of the week, an oldie, I See the Light by Five Americans, which were a very early garage band in Texas. And if you have other suggestions for songs of the week that fit, please send them to me or post them on Facebook on the Empowerment Unlimited page under my posting of the podcast. And the image of the week is a cartoon light bulb appearing over your head again and again and again and again. For information about my Facebook Live Astro Chat this coming Friday at noon Eastern Daylight Time, or to sign up for my mailing list, or read my May forecast, which will be up early in the week, or book a session with me, please visit empowermentunlimited.net. Talk to you next week.